On this episode, I'm going to finish building the destroyed wall sections for my perimeter wall for Legions Imperialis. My name is Hank, and you're watching Engine Killer. Happy New Year! Picking up where I left off, I start off by building out the battlements that'll go on top of the wall pillars that haven't been fully destroyed, and there's really only, I think, 3 or 4 of those. Basically, those are going to look pretty much exactly like the battlements that are on top of the intact wall sections, with the exception that the part that's hanging off the edge of the destroyed side of the pillar is going to be, well, just jagged and mangled. So for this, basically use the same process as on the previous walls. I just took the time to really take my clippers to the edge, cut up all the edges there and kind of mangle them. And then everything's glued on with liquid nails. So next up, my plan was to cut up a bunch of little pieces of plastic art, which I'm planning to use to just kind of scatter around the destroyed sections. Kind of look like just sheets of metal that have been kind of thrown about here and there. And since I was going to be cutting the plastic art anyway, I decided to go ahead and take this opportunity to create the weapon housings for the gate pillars that I had previously made. And so for this, I'm just taking a thin sheet of styrene that I've already cut, and then to cut that, what I do is just score it with the X-Acto blade, and then once I've got the score where I want it, I then go through and make several scores as needed on the longer piece, and then it's flimsy enough that you can just kind of bend it and it will snap, which is really nice because you get a pretty clean break. And then for these, I'm just going to glue them on with super glue and just kind of hold it in place for a little bit until I've kind of got it in the right position. The little overhang and is supported by a couple of little triangular shapes that I'd cut from the styrene. These were a little bit hard to get in place because my fingers are so big and the pieces themselves are so small. They're only about 1/4 of an inch. So I ended up just having to kind of hold it with my clippers just really gently. I didn't have any tweezers on hand, so it worked out pretty good though. I was able to get them into place and secured nice and even looking. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better than the way it did before with just the guns poking out. So here, now that I've got this long piece of styrene, I'm just going to go ahead and score it and in just a bunch of different angles and just break all those off. And once those are all ready, then I'll go ahead and glue them here and there all around the destroyed wall sections. Now, when I went to start gluing the styrene onto the destroyed wall piece, I realized I still needed to do some more texturing. So I got out my razor blade and just kind of started cutting away at the edges here and there, making some really big cracks, chips, things like that, making it look like it's just really torn up. And then there were also still some sides that were pretty bare, so I went ahead and got a piece of aluminum foil, rolled it up, and kind of added some of the cement texture that way as well. And then for the styrene bits, I'm just going to go ahead and take regular white PVA glue. I use an old paintbrush and just kind of dab it on here and there where I want to set my little pieces of plastic card. You'll notice I glued a few of them to the plastic up on top of the battlements. It wasn't until after that had dried and I went back and realized that the PVA glue doesn't really bond very well with plastic to plastic, so I ended up having to go ahead and take those off and then re-glue them with plastic cement. Once all my little plastic card bits were glued into place, once those were all dried, I went ahead and my plan was to go ahead and get some medium grit ballast, glue it in there, kind of in between all of the larger rocks. And same technique for the most part. I just kind of dab the white PVA glue here and there where I want the rocks to all kind of settle in, and then put it in a box and sprinkle all of the medium grit ballast in there. Once that's all done, just kind of turn it over, shake it off, brush off anything along the edges or that's kind of on top of rocks where it maybe shouldn't be, where it probably would have fallen off. But yeah, that's a pretty easy process. And putting it in a box helps because then I can just dump it all back in the bag, all the bits that didn't get glued on afterwards. I also have this bag full of leftover cabling from weapons that didn't get used before. I think these are mostly from Reaver Titan weapons from Titanicus, maybe a few other Knight models as well. For those, I decided to go ahead and use, well, it just kind of depends on where I was gluing it. So like if I was going to glue it to plastic, I would use the plastic cement. If it's going to get glued somewhere else, then PVA glue will probably, something that's not going to melt the styrofoam. can see near the top of the battlement, there's like just directly underneath it, there's like a large rectangular piece from a sprue. I put that there intentionally because I wanted to kind of make it look like there's like a big hallway up there. My plan was to basically take the foam cutter, the hot wire foam cutter, but use the large metal tip and just kind of melt away inside and use the sprue as a sort of guide to just kind of cut out that hallway. And I think it came out really nice. It looks really good. It looks like there's some kind of a hallway up there. And then I went back and glued in a few little pieces of plastic card just to kind of fill it out a little bit and make it look like maybe that was kind of really supposed to be there. Well, thanks for tuning in. Once again, Happy New Year, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.